Athletes are the closest thing we have to superhumans, but even they can feel under the weather sometimes. That shows we're not alone in our mental struggles. Recently, Simone Biles talked about her decision to drop out of the last Olympics. Let's take a look back at what it was all about. First up, Simone Biles' famous Olympic dropout. Anyone who doesn't know who Simone Biles is must be living under a rock, because this 25-year-old American is probably the best artistic gymnast on planet Earth. With a total of 32 medals, world championships, and Olympics combined, she's considered by most as the greatest gymnast of all time. She's known for performing the most difficult skills with ease and confidence. She's a brave lady, but last year she did what we'd consider being one of the most challenging things she's ever done. The Tokyo Summer Olympics 2020, which took place in 2021, thanks to COVID, was an interesting sight. With a no cheering audience and the event being a year late for the first time ever, we probably should have expected a lot of unusual things. Still, the best gymnast of all time withdrawing from the competition before the finals was something no one saw coming. In the qualifiers, it was obvious that something was off. The superstar gymnast's performances were a bit shaky, but being the stunning athlete she is, she still qualified for all the individual finals and was the only athlete to do so. Even her not-so-good performance is out of this world. After the qualifiers, she expressed on Instagram how much pressure she was feeling. But maybe that's the curse of being extraordinary. People don't take the signs of your distress that seriously, because they think your excellence is a given, no matter what happens. On the day of the team final, Simone repeated what had happened in the warm-ups. She performed a 1.5 twist on the vault instead of a 2.5 and landed a dangerous landing. After this, she left the floor. Then the most shocking thing was heard. Yes, you guessed it. It was announced that Simone was not going to be taking part in the rest of the competition because of medical issues. This was a major setback for the U.S. team, and the news spread like wildfire. Everywhere on television and on Twitter, people started speculating about what really happened. Shortly after, it was clarified that she made the decision to withdraw because of mental health issues. After that, she missed all events except for the beam final competition, in which she won bronze and became the second female gymnast to have won 7 Olympic medals. Next, we have a global pandemic, twisties, and Simone Biles. The Olympics are the world's most celebrated and beloved sport event, and athletes spend their entire lives trying to just get to the Olympics. So when the most popular athlete of one of the most popular Olympic sports sees it fit to step down, you better believe that things must be serious. Simone gave her main reason to be stress, pressure, and anxiety. Honestly, who can blame her? When the Olympics were being held, it had been more than a year since COVID had been around, and the brutal pandemic was still going strong. Every human on the planet was feeling out of the loop, and that's the injustice we do to these athletes. We just forget they're humans too, just like the ordinary folk. If anything, the Olympians had it far worse, because unlike a lot of people, they couldn't work from home or just sit back and take that time to rest. They had to practice hard and were expected to do their best at a time when the whole world seemed to be crumbling and everyone was confused. Things were different at the Olympics as well. The gymnasts were given a small cubicle to stay in and were quarantined. They were being tested for COVID every single day, and the general spirit of the Olympics was pretty much not there. And after a whole year of the pandemic, all of this was more than enough to mess up with someone's headspace. And that's what happened with Simone as well. Gymnastics is a risky sport. Simone said that if she had continued, her physical health would also be in danger. But how can mental health fatigue cause injury during such a carefully practiced gymnastic routine, right? Well, Twisties would like to introduce itself. Twisties, a silly name for the real villain of a gymnast's life. What happens is that the athlete enters a sort of mental block during the quick and dizzying routines that make them unaware of time and space, causing them to lose balance and land injuries that can be fatal. Kinda like when you're driving but you're not mentally there. Instead, you could fall very fast from midair, land on your neck, and connect to God's Wi-Fi. So yeah, she needed a break, and we're glad she took it. Now for the effect on Team US. Simone's decision was so surprising that a lot of people didn't even think about the team that was left behind. It's so normal to see America dominate the gymnastics scene that it's taken for granted by Americans and seen as predictable by the rest of the world. Especially with a strong athlete like Simone on their team, everyone expected the US team to show their magic again. But with Simone leaving mid-game, her teammates had to deal with the most chaotic situation when the whole world was watching with much more attention than before. In artistic gymnastics, there are 4 members in a team and 3 play in each round. Simone Biles was expected to compete in all 4 events for the team. With her withdrawing so suddenly, all the pressure was shifted to Jordan Childs and Sunny Lee. They now had to compete in all events when previously they were supposed to skip some. Thankfully, these gifted gymnasts adjusted quickly to the new challenge that was ahead of them. They would make for a perfect movie, by the way, don't you think? The U.S. team picked themselves back up as the game progressed and put on an incredible show. Up next, critics and supporters. Simone's dropout was talked about a lot, and boy, were there some people furious about it. She was slammed mercilessly, especially by the conservative media. She was being called selfish, she was called weak and unprofessional. They went on to suggest that Simone was being a bad example to the new generation, that she was showing them that it's okay to quit when things get difficult. It got worse too because racists jumped on the bandwagon and started calling her all kinds of slurs on the internet. Oh, and how can we forget about the Patriots, who were mad because, according to them, Simone had turned her back on the USA and its people. They said that she should have dealt with absolutely any struggle instead of leaving the team. And Russia winning the gold? That was the true insult to injury, according to them. Don't worry though, all isn't lost. The majority of the people and other athletes from other kinds of sports still showed their support for Simone's decision. They agreed with Simone that the medal would have threatened much more if she continued to play despite not feeling herself. So many people on the internet were happy she put herself first. Simone herself put it best. At the end of the day, we're human too, so we have to protect our mind and our body rather than just go out there and do what the world wants us to do. Louder for the people in the back, Simone. Now for why it's important. Athletes need to be allowed to be vulnerable and take a break when they need it. This shouldn't be a debate in the 21st century. Simone found the courage to do this because of the tennis star Naomi Osaka, who withdrew from major tournaments for the sake of her mental health. It's good to see that Simone paved the way further. It also started a much-needed conversation about how horrible gymnasts are treated in the name of training and how much their abuse is normalized. And of course, gave a lot of us ordinary folk the courage to be vocal about our mental struggles. Now, let's catch up on some other gymnastics news. Starting with the FBI agents will not be charged. Larry Nassar was a famous doctor accused of sexually assaulting female gymnasts in the guise of medical care. 150 women came forward with their stories of abuse by him. He was proven guilty and sentenced. A statement was released recently by the Department of Justice saying that the FBI agent who botched the case against him will not be charged for what they did. How disappointing. Next, 3 coaches for the U.S. gymnast team. It's a controversial process selecting a coach for the U.S. gymnast team, but this time they've come up with an interesting approach. Yes, the U.S. gymnastics team will now have a total of 3 coaches. This is how it will work. Alicia Quinn will be the strategic lead, with Chelsea Mamel and Dan Baker being technical and developmental lead. Finally, Simone Biles is engaged. Simone said yes. The lucky guy is Jonathan Owens, and she said she knew she was going to marry him the first time she saw him. They made their relationship public in 2020 and are now engaged. Love at first sight is real, folks. We cannot wait to see how gorgeous she'll look in a wedding dress. That's a wrap for this video. See you in the next one.